Hi everybody, this is Andrea Bierman from Learning Bear, and today we're going to be talking about the game of migration. I want to relate this to board games. Have you all ever played chess before? Chess is basically the physical manifestation of a headache, okay? It is complicated, every piece moves its own direction, and sometimes you're playing against another team. And migration is that same sort of headache. What is migration anyways, right? Migration at its basic components is the movement of a species from one place to another. Unfortunately, it's never that simple, okay? They can't just go from point A to point B. There's usually multiple spaces in between, just like a chessboard. If it was easy for the pieces to move all over the place, it wouldn't be a game, right? Then we get into some other vocabulary that's important to know. There's limiting factors, which are things that keep a population in check, which can be any number of things. And it can be a living thing or a non-living thing. It could be water, it could be farmers, it could be anything. Then there's habitat, and habitat is food, water, shelter, air, and space. And if any one of those things is missing, well, that's also a limiting factor, okay? And then along the lines of habitat, you have some species need very specific types of habitat, like waterfowl need wetlands, okay? Butterflies need flowers, okay? They need specific things to be available in order for them to migrate successfully. Now, since we mentioned special differences, let's take a look at chess pieces and kind of relate them to actual species in the wild. As you can see, all of these chess pieces in this picture are different, and I haven't even included the pawns, but all of them are different, and they all are unique in their capacity, just like species in the wild. So the first piece we're going to talk about is the queen, and the queen is a very unique piece on a chessboard, if for no other reason than there's only one of them compared to the other pieces, most of the other pieces. And the queen can move left, right, forward, backward, diagonals, and if it's available to them, they can go from one end of the board to the other. That's pretty amazing. And similarly, in the nature world, Arctic terns migrate from the North Pole to the South Pole and back again, just like the queen could do on a chessboard. They average over 40,000 miles a year in their migration, and in their lifetime, they're migrating over 1 million miles, which, fun fact, that is like going to the moon and back. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Can you imagine going to the moon and back 3 times in your lifetime? I definitely can't. So this bird definitely warrants the amazing queen piece on a chessboard. The king of migration, or at least for this presentation, is going to be the leatherback sea turtle. And sea turtles are well known for making a trek for their migrations, but leatherbacks definitely outdo the rest of them. They can travel 10,000 miles or more between their breeding and their feeding grounds. And they can be found very far north, like Norway, and very far south, like New Zealand. Some turtles migrate between Baja California and Japan. They can tolerate a lot of colder weather than other turtles because they have this layer of fat, which is their leathery appearance, and they return to the same beaches they were born every year. And I consider them the king because the king in chess is, slow and steady. It moves one space at a time. It's staving off that checkmate. And I kind of think of the sea turtle in that same way. They're slow, they're steady, they're killing it as far as mileage goes, but they're being, casual about it. This next one, we're going to be talking about bishops. And bishop's a cool piece because it can move diagonally and change direction. Okay, it kind of bounces around. And if you just take the word bishop, bishop is a position of authority in a religion. I typically think of the Catholic denomination, but there, it's in other denominations as well. And we're going to connect this to the monarch butterfly. And monarch, the name monarch is a position of authority in a form of government. So that's what the connection is there. That's pretty much the only connection. But monarch butterflies have a crazy long migration period. It can be several generations before they get from their wintering grounds back to their home in the northern United States. And as many as 300 million butterflies can make that journey each year. And I do want to make a note that monarch butterflies are not the only butterflies that migrate. They're probably the most popular because their species is in decline due to habitat loss, but they are not the only butterflies that migrate. There are others. The next one is the little knight, which is represented by a horse. And I know it's not a horse, but we're going to talk about the great wildebeest migration, which is a horse-like creature, right? It's got 4 legs, it runs. It is the largest migration of land animals, which occurs for several months from summer to fall. And around 2 million of these animals migrate from Tanzania to Kenya, which is 500 miles away, which, isn't like a crazy long migration, but I certainly wouldn't want to walk 500 miles. But unfortunately, a lot of these creatures die because, crocodiles and lions and hyenas and so forth. But it's a great number of them that migrate, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so now we're on to the rook, and you can call a rook or a castle or a tower or whatever you want to do. I think this next creature kind of gets a bad reputation for sleeping in dark, creepy places, sometimes castles or abandoned castles. And if you're thinking to yourself, is she talking about the bat? Yes, I'm talking about the bat. So lots of bats migrate, but I want to point out one in particular that migrates. There's this group of about 8 million bats that migrate from Congo to Zambia's Kasanka National Park to eat their masuku fruit when it's in season. And these bats only occupy one tiny little portion of this ginormous forest, and they sleep in the same tree and become this massive, warm-blooded congregation of sleeping and eating bats. And just as a reminder for anybody out there that thinks bats only drink blood and turn into vampires, they don't. Okay? They do other things, like eat fruit, like this one in particular, the straw-colored fruit bat. Okay, to round out our discussion about chess and migration, we're going to talk about pawns. And, pawns kind of have a simplistic role in chess. They can move one space at a time. Except for their first move, they can jump 2 spaces. They capture you at a diagonal. They're kind of ignored, in a sense. At least when I've played chess, they're kind of ignored, and they really shouldn't be. And there are lots of migrating species that I'm not recognizing in this presentation because I don't have the time, quite frankly. But there's whales that migrate, there's pronghorns, there's hummingbirds, there's countless amount of birds that migrate. There's other sea turtles that migrate, there's seals that migrate, there's eels, there's fish, there's amphibians, there's reptiles. Okay, I just want to say that there's all these other species that migrate. And in chess, you have to be thoughtful about how you play. There's got to be a strategy. And you're constantly moving from the offensive to the defensive. Sometimes you're the predator, sometimes you're the prey. And that's what migration can be for these creatures. Sometimes they're being attacked, and sometimes they're doing the attacking. And, like with the wildebeest, a lot of them die, and they're the prey in that situation. Some animals, they don't make it because there's not enough habitat for all of them, and they're competing, and maybe they didn't have a good enough strategy. Maybe they didn't get enough food so that they could travel farther distances and beat out these other animals. Chess is a game of strategy. It's a game of competition, of, winning and failure. And if you don't survive, that's the end of your gene pool. It's really survival of the fittest. And as humans, it's up to us to decide whether we're going to make it an easy game of chess for them when they migrate, or if we make it a hard game. This is the difference between playing a novice and playing a chess super champion, okay? If we can connect these green spaces, if we can respect those times of years when they need to migrate, either through light pollution, limiting light pollution, or flooding fields to open up migration, whatever, we need to be available and open-minded for that in order for these species to continue to survive and be successful. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you check out my other YouTube videos and my podcast, and check us out next time. See you later. Bye.